you're the master of many things, but you really seem to have a handle on rhinoplasty, and I hope everybody knows. We lay people would say somebody got a nose job, or that's not really a nice way to say it, but I was fascinated by the fact that it's not just, you know, you have them for every ethnic culture. So, you know, what does that entail now? And do you study each, you know, the basic kind of bone structures for each culture, and then have already had practice procedures on that, or you have your own technique, or did you develop? Because I mean, I don't really go around and look at a lot of plastic surgeon websites, but I never thought I'd see like it listed out, you know, we got Asian, this one, transgendered, this one, that. So it takes, I mean, it's not like you go to a drawer and pull out the nose you're going to put on somebody, but how do you come to have it all so succinct?
So actually, that's a great question, because one size doesn't fit all. And I attribute one of the successes, reasons for the success for our practice is because, you know, everyone's an individual, and depending on where you're from, and if you're from somewhere else and visiting us and then going back, or you from somewhere else and you're Americanized now, but you still have part of your culture, you have to assess those. We have patients from Afghanistan and Zimbabwe. I've been to probably over 50 countries myself. So each part of the world wants different things at different times. So if you go to California, Dallas, Miami, they all have their aesthetic. Everything's kind of out there. I don't agree with the Miami aesthetic. I don't really like the LA aesthetic either. In Texas, everything is big and dramatic. New York is kind of conservative. I don't want anybody to know about it. And if you're coming from, for example, Southeast Asia, and I'll make your nostrils too big for some reason, for them, money flows out of the nostrils. So you've doomed them to poverty. By the same token, if you go to the Middle East right now, to Iran, to Lebanon, let's say, and you do a nose, and it's not small enough or more aggressive than even here, they'll say you didn't do enough for them. Whereas if you do those same noses to somebody in New York City, they'll run you out of town saying he made me look like I had a nose job. So it does matter where you're from. You know, I learned that even in sculpture, like when you sit there and really want to get somebody's portrait, right? You have to find out how they sit, how they smile, how they hold their head, how they express themselves. Same thing in ethnic rhinoplasty or ethnic anything. You just have to first ask, who are you? What is it that you really want? What is it that what are your goals? And then we'll see if we can fit something to that.
Right. It's just, I find it all just like very amazing. So doing that and, you know, fitting at the people and talking about their goals, how do you develop the technique, like I guess the personal wise one, and then when you're actually doing the surgery, to handle whatever it requires for the client, the patient, to live happy and whole. See, my thing is inside and out, and how do you develop the technique so that you can know, you know, I mean, I know you do a lot of, I'm sure, pre-talk, because there are, as we know, you know, people that this becomes kind of an obsession and an addiction, and, you know, somebody could really believe that they should visually look different because their insides are different, but some people can be thinking they should visually look different because they're just not happy with who they are as an individual. And I'm not sure if when they get something done, if it's for, you know, personal reasons, not like a medical reason, that they'll ever, you know, when will they be happy with it? Maybe right away, maybe not. And I wondered, you know, what's that like for the physician? Because there's a lot of, well, thank God you took some psychology. There's a lot that you have to weigh, I think, when you are coaching somebody toward what they're going to ultimately come out with.
I would say that's probably the most difficult part. That's the part that we spend the most time on. And after a while, you just get really, really, really good at it. And we see, let's say, 50 patients a day for the last 20 years. So, I mean, everything you said is great and true. And so what we first start off with is from the initial email, the phone call. And, you know, when you've done 5,000, for example, rhinoplasties, then you know, we have statistics on all of these. Like it's usually a 22-year-old girl who comes in and gets a rhinoplasty and complains about the bump, the ball, and the fact that it droops. And, you know, that they are afraid of looking different, looking like Michael Jackson, or looking so different that somebody's going to notice and losing their identity. They're afraid of maybe anesthetic risks, and they're afraid of the cost, meaning not just dollars and cents, but is anybody going to find out? Am I going to have to miss school? Am I going to have to tell my mom? Is my husband going to find out? Is my fiance going to find out? So those things, if they're in that 64% bell curve and they kind of say the same things and they fill out their paperwork correctly, and they don't have anything that's too far away, 1 or 2 standard deviations away is okay. But if you're, for example, if a 48-year-old man comes in and wants a rhinoplasty, I want to know why. Because that's off my charts, and that's not who really wants to do this procedure. So I really want to know why he wants to do it, because that's just not who does noses, okay? Now, there might be exceptions to that. So
like if they had an accident at work or something like that. Yeah.
But, you know, so if you come in, it's all about a discussion. And, like, you know, my rules are you have to look me in the eye. If you don't look me in the eye and you're just insecure, that's one thing. But if you don't look me in the eye because you're off, that's the worst thing we can do, is operate on somebody who has like body dysmorphia or body dysmorphic disorder. Or if anyone you think needs to go see a psychologist, you sure shouldn't operate on them.